Well, hello, and welcome back to the Calorie Deficit University podcast. Today is going to be a little bit prepared, a little bit unprepared, a little bit yappy. So let's grab a cup of tea and have some fun, okay? So recently I saw a video of a girl who had gone through, I'm going to give you a little backstory on her, but I'm not going to name her out because I don't think she wants that type of attention. So I'm not going to do that. I saw a video of a very popular content creator who their story is beautiful. They went through a weight loss journey, and that's really how she got famous, okay, is by sharing her weight loss journey online. She lost a very significant amount of weight through changing her food and exercise routine, okay? She's very honest about that and what she did, counting her calories and focusing on protein, and really beautiful thing to watch someone, take interest and care in their nutrition and their movement, right? All the things we should be doing. And it worked for her. She lost the weight and that was her goal and she achieved it. And it was great. And it also got her a lot of notoriety online. Then she went through a very hard personal time. Again, all things that she has shared herself online. This is not like insider information, okay? She had like a mental health, I wouldn't use the word crisis, but thing that happened. And during that mental health time where she was really struggling, all things that she shared online, she did gain all of her weight back. And she didn't share that until recently that she's gained the weight back and some more. And she's been sharing this journey on the internet because she wants to lose the weight again, and has been sharing that as it comes. And now that she also has her mental health managed, she's sharing her medications, her therapies, and things like that online. Her mental health is managed and medicated, which is amazing. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Like I said, she has expressed that she's trying to lose weight again. Now, she's been trying to lose weight. I've been watching because it comes up as popular on my For You page. She's been trying to lose weight for a few months and hasn't been able to do so at all. And I will say the amount of nasty comments that have started coming onto her page are pretty gross and pretty rude. And so that's not okay. And she notices them and she does call them out. So she recently just made a video, and I don't know if it's up. I didn't check. She may have taken it down because she said in it, oh, I'm going to take this down, but I'm just posting this because I'm like frustrated and mad. And I'm quoting her. She said, well, I'll show you when I go to the doctor and my blood work comes back that there's something medically wrong with me. And all of you will feel horrible because it was something medical all along and there was nothing wrong with me. Oh, and the way my heart just like broke, dropped, sank, threw up, cried, squeezed, scrambled, and like crawled across the floor. When I saw that video, I cringed, I laughed, I cried, I screamed, like every single emotion you could have, I had in that video. Because like I've been there, because I've felt what she's feeling, because I work with women specifically that feel this way every day. Like I know exactly where she is, and it's so hard to especially have ridicule online, but to feel like a failure, to feel like, okay, there's something that must be wrong with me because I'm doing all the things right. So you start to feel insane, like you start to feel crazy, you start to doubt yourself, like the feelings are very overwhelming. And if you've been listening to me for a while, while I may be a blunt person, that's just my personality, it's just my tone, we all get along here, we all love it here, I am a highly empathetic person, and everything makes me cry. Everything makes me like have an emotional reaction and response. And I have a really hard time with the fitness industry all the time because generally the response to her would be just work harder, just dig in deeper. When usually there are probably some skills there or things that are going on, which I know because I meticulously, again, monitor like those things, or monitor is not the right word, but I just pay attention. I guess I have pattern recognition, and I just pay attention and I see things because I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably what's happening specifically with this girl in this situation, which I'm going to get into. But this is a very common feeling, and I want to unpack it on a more I have different types of videos and podcast episodes where I'm more scripted than others, and I just want to do an unscripted kind of, I have some notes that I'm going to go through because I'm very organized, but more colloquial, more like a friend chatting and sitting down with you kind of energy, okay? A vital part of the weight loss conversation that is often missing is contextualization and nuance, which I've branded myself as the queen of nuance because I am. And especially when it comes to your medical conditions or your mental health, there is so much contextualizations that are needed and often just get totally obliterated and lost because of the bro science fitness bullshit that gets pushed down everyone's throat, that discipline, more discipline, more cut your calories lower is the answer, which it's not usually the answer at all. It's actually probably another form of the answer is another form of accountability that can feel just as uncomfortable as that, but at least it's real solutions and real answers, okay? So when we look at weight loss, we cannot look at it in a binary way. It is multifaceted and interconnected to everything. And that's just about medical conditions, okay? I'm not even talking about like personality or mental health issues or conditions as a whole. Like all of these things are interconnected, and we are not just some robot that can accept and entertain like these inputs and just be like beep boop beep pop, I'm good, I'm done. Like, no, you are a dynamic person with lots of things going on, and so we have to treat you as a whole person to get the results that you want, which for a lot of people is beyond weight loss. For this girl, of course it was beyond weight loss. She wanted to keep her results. She put in all this hard work and then had a life event that happened to her that totally took her off track. That's just part of being human. And I've been there as well. I've talked about this many times on the podcast before. I had an almost 2 years of a really toxic and stressful job where I gained an extreme amount of weight. And it was very painful to go through, especially as someone who had a health background and understood nutrition management and had so much stress and mental crisis going on that I just lost myself as a person. And that's okay. That's part of life. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're undisciplined or gross or whatever. And I recently had a nasty comment from somebody that I could tell they probably found like old pictures of me or whatever. And they said, why would I listen to someone who is obese and ugly like you? And it's like, that's crazy. We shouldn't be saying that shit to each other online because you have no idea what someone is going through. And now that I'm like leaner again and cutting again, people are like, wow, how do you have all that muscle? Babe, lock in for the story because the lore's deep, okay? But medical conditions and reasoning are always important and vital to understanding your complete picture of health. While that is always going to be true, understanding yourself, right? Your nutrition management will always be important as well. So while you might have medical crisis going on or a medical condition or a mental health issue going on, your nutrition management is always going to be, like I said, interconnected and vital to your health and wellness, because what you eat really does impact your mental health and your physical health, okay? When we say a calorie deficit, and when I say we, the science community says a calorie deficit is all that is needed to lose weight. We aren't saying that your medical conditions don't matter or don't have impact on your weight at all. It's actually the contrary. What that means is that your medical conditions don't change the caloric impacts of food. There are no medical anomalies that change the caloric amount of food. That would mean like you're a chemical combustion machine and maybe an alien and need to be studied, okay? So the calorie science is always going to be the calorie science. But oftentimes, medical conditions largely impact our behavior, okay? When it comes to understanding calorie science, we have to look at our behavioral sciences as well. They are interconnected and one and the same. So let's stop for a second we have lots of things going on here that I've mentioned, lots of big kind of broad words. We have medical conditions, nutrition management, calorie science, and human behavior science, okay? These are the magic tools and subjects that we have to break down and understand and master to not feel like we're getting crushed by the old world bullshit push of just diet and exercise to lose weight, okay? It needs a larger, broader conversation brought to the table. So let's work through them. Number one is nutrition management. You are always going to have an element of nutrition management in your life. And when I say nutrition management, people think, oh my gosh, you're telling me I'm going to have to track my calories for the rest of my life? No, nutrition management can be as simple as figuring out what you're going to have for dinner, or what you're going to have as a snack, or what you're going to put in your coffee, because you're like, do I want a maple coffee? Do I want a latte? Do I want an Americano? Do I want an espresso? Or it can be as complex as figuring out how much protein or fiber you want to meet every day for your physique goals. It can be literally tracking gram per gram what you're eating, so you know that you're getting enough of the nutrients that you need to be successful. Okay? And that pendulum swings for a lot of people. What we see be very beneficial is education with nutrition management. And so for this girl specifically, there's a lacking of nutrition education. There was this phrase that was going around that she didn't coin, this eat what you want, add what you need. And while it's a good sentiment at first as like a launch pad for nutrition management and education around nutrition, your wants are not usually aligning with the scientific dietary recommendations that you need to live a healthy life, because your wants are largely manipulated by marketing, by big corporations, and depend on your education, your socioeconomic class, and what your parents ate, okay, and where you grew up, your location. So when we think about education, it's making sure that you understand just how much vegetables you need to be eating, how many fruits and what types of fruits, and oils and seeds and nuts and lean meats and dairy and things like that. Because most people, 90% of Americans are not meeting the recommended dietary needs to live a healthy, happy, long life. Okay. And so this whole idea of eat what you want, add what you need isn't going to be a good solution for your health long term. And we saw that in this girl, for example. It helped her lose weight initially, but it didn't help her keep the weight off long term when a health crisis arose. Because when something like a health crisis comes up, our behavior dramatically changes. No shit. We get depressed, we get sad, we need more sleep, we're really tired, we don't have enough spoons in the drawer, like we're spent. And so it wouldn't even make sense to expect of yourself that you would be able to manage your nutrition in the same way when you weren't in a health crisis. So having a good healthy baseline and changing your nutrition to match what is actually required of you instead of what you want is what the primary goal should be over time. Is how can we get you to want to eat vegetables and want to eat fruit and want to eat what you need to eat to live a healthy life first instead of the other way around. So number 2, calorie science and application. The thing is you're always going to have an energy requirement to exist. Literally. That's what the difference between starving to death and not. You are always going to need energy to exist. Whether you are trying to lose weight or not, calories matter. If you're at maintenance, calories matter. If you're in a deficit, calories matter. If you're in a surplus, calories matter. They all count, always, at all times. Energy will always, always, always count. They have meaning and they have purpose and they have intention. It's not just about one calorie. Like I said, your nutrient management, whether you're eating protein or carbs or fats, are all going to count and have a specific reason, point, purpose, far beyond just what the calorie science is. Because I think a lot of people, when they say like calorie deficit, just eat less, they're missing out on the application of it. If you are in a calorie deficit, but you're eating an extremely low protein diet, you're not going to feel good. You're going to be hungry all the time, and you're not going to be eating enough protein to support your lean muscle mass or your bone density. Same thing goes for healthy fats. If you're a woman and you're not eating enough healthy fats, your hormones are going to suffer. You're going to feel like shit. Your sleep is going to suffer. You're going to be irritable, and you'll be hungry too. If you're not eating enough carbs, you're going to be irritable and not satiated. And if you're not eating enough carbs, you're probably not getting in enough fruits and vegetables because that has a carbohydrate requirement. This is where it's really important to take a step back, to really accept the reality that your food habits have to change. And that's the rub of when people say, I can't lose weight, I can't lose weight. Most likely what's going on is your movement patterns and your food habits do not align for the desired weight loss that you have. And it's hard to change your behavior. It's hard to change. It doesn't negate how hard it is, right? To say like, yeah, but it is simple. It is hard. Even though it's simple, it is difficult. Number 3, the category of behavior science. And what I'll kind of like add as a subcategory to that is like your upbringing, your family, like your socioeconomic status, like your, what would be the word for it? Maybe like your anthropology, right? Your behavior, learned or taught, how you were raised, your socioeconomic status, access to education, all largely dictate what you eat and your health outcomes. If you are poor, you're going to have less access to healthcare than someone who is wealthy, okay? When you are poor, you struggle with food insecurity. You struggle with skipping meals or figuring out what you should or shouldn't eat. And corporations take advantage of that, and they market to you to eat their expensive, low nutrient, ultra processed foods because it tastes good. And when you're tired after working a double, you don't want to sit down and eat beans and rice and chicken. You just don't. You want an ultra palatable, ultra delicious, like crunchy, salty, sweet combination that makes your dopamine light up after a really long and stressful and hard day. And that is what determines and dictates behavior outcomes with your food choices. In this category, like I said, I heavily put location, income, and support system and lifestyle. Something that I will see happen often, specifically with women, is that they are literally so strung out and pushed to the edge of their responsibility within the home, whether or not they have children. Women oftentimes do all of the unpaid labor and a job in addition to that. And so it's really important to have grace for yourself and understanding for yourself, and also get therapy and specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, so that you can help yourself out of the behavioral hole that you might be in. Having lack of awareness of your behavior is probably what's getting in the way of your desire to change your food habits. Nothing wrong with you. You just don't know enough about yourself yet. And that's okay. There's lots of time to learn. Number 4 is medical conditions. I want to say off the bat that medical conditions are very serious. You have to think of your body as one complex unit. It all works together. Medical conditions impact behavior, how you feel about yourself, your mental health, your social interactions, your ability to live a quality of life. And it's something that we don't talk about enough, because in this country, we are discriminatory towards people with disabilities and medical conditions. We just are. Medical conditions can also impact how you eat and your appetite, your ability to eat enough food, even down to whether or not you can prepare meals for yourself. Like I said, if you're disabled or too exhausted, if you have no spoons left in the drawer, which if you're unfamiliar with the spoon analogy, just look it up. But if you have no spoons left over and you have to choose between preparing yourself a complex, nutritious recipe that you found online compared to a frozen pizza, you're probably going for the frozen pizza because it's the least resistant path and the most ultra palatable path. And so don't beat yourself up if you have a medical condition, but also at the same time, understanding that you have to have personal responsibility and accountability for your nutrition management. I work with people of all different backgrounds, of disabilities, PCOS, people who are on GLP-1s, not on GLP-1s. And the people who succeed the most with their medical conditions are those who accept their reality, that their medical condition largely impacts their behavior. And actually, when you have a medical condition, you get less room to have the wiggle. You get way less nutritional wiggle room because every single thing counts for you, because it counts towards your medical condition. I find specifically with women who have PCOS, they're hungrier. Okay, guess what we're going to do? It'll be a lighter deficit, and we're going to have way more protein. We're going to have way more nutrient density in your diet, have a very serious fiber goal that has to be met, and fruit and vegetables are of utmost priority. No wiggle room. And while it feels like restrictiveness, when you do it enough for a long enough period of time, you start to feel free from food noise, free from the ailments that your medical condition like PCOS can cause, because you're actually fueling your body with the appropriate nutrients that you need. I did a podcast episode on the nutrient requirements that are recommended by the USDA, and 90% on average of Americans are not getting any of the daily required nutrients they need to feel their best. This is categories in fruits, vegetables, protein, fats, fiber, all of it. 97% of men do not reach the daily required fiber goal that they should for their overall health, and colorectal cancer is on the rise. So this is something that you need to take seriously if you also want to have preventative measures taken against future medical complications and conditions. So the fifth category, the extra one that I would add, should be exercise, and that will be an entire podcast episode of its own, because it's its own special niche of it in and of itself. But just because calories count doesn't mean that your medical condition is meaningless, okay? Your medical conditions are the context for the other categories. They're the reason, the application, the direction in which you need to go. They aren't something to be overcome. Okay, your medical condition is not like this battle wound that you're just going to magically solve and overcome. For a lot of people, you have medical or mental health conditions for the rest of your life that have to be managed as a chronic disability or chronic condition. So accepting that is okay. Just not living in shame about it is vitally important, because there's nothing to be ashamed of if you're disabled. There's nothing to be ashamed of living with a chronic medical condition. We just have to accept that it is what it is and apply nutrition management even harder, okay? Because it's really important for you to take care of your body as much as possible. Again, oftentimes, like I said, all of these categories are interconnected. They bounce off of each other and they're impacted by one another. One domino falls and it leads to the other and the next and the next. You have a medical thing happen. It makes you upset. It makes you sad. So you don't spend any time managing your nutrition that day. And then you end up starving. So you end up overeating. And then you end up being lethargic and sluggish. So you don't want to go to the gym. And that cycle just continues on and on and on. So what can you do? You can change your mind. Yeah, it's hard to do. I oftentimes talk about limiting mindsets, and I know that people are going to roll their eyes when I'm talking about limiting mindsets on a podcast about medical conditions and disabilities. Are going to be like, wow, that's some crazy shit coming from you. I'm self-aware enough to understand that, but also you need to hear me that there can be two truths existing at one time, that more discipline in this area isn't going to solve the problem. That's not what I'm saying, that you just need to try harder with your limiting belief. No, the limiting belief is thinking that calorie science isn't real. That's the limiting belief I'm talking about. And the limiting belief that you are incapable. I have found that people who live with chronic medical conditions or disabilities are some of the most incredible, resilient, intelligent people. And they just need someone to listen and be their friend and to encourage them in how resilient and incredible they are. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah. So don't get me twisted on that. Okay. Like I said, and I don't mean that in the sense that you just need to believe in yourself more and you just you're limiting yourself without even knowing it. No, you probably realistically are just unaware of your behavior need therapy, because if you have a serious medical condition, that's traumatizing shit, and it impacts your life at a really unconscious level. And you need tools and education to get there, realistic, tangible things. Like I said, the episode I did about nutrition requirements on the USDA stuff, that's tangible information that you can guide yourself. Okay, I can do a cup of vegetables. I can do a cup of this. That is what I'm talking about. Not this metaphysical, outer space, bro science, limiting mindset. That shit's bullshit. And then they're going to sell you a little journal book to go get at the end. No, not talking about that. I find that the perfect combination of accountability, discipline, self-awareness, forgiveness, gentleness, rest, and yes, usually healing your trauma, is required to lose weight. A really good combination of all those, not leaning one way too hard or the other. And for many people, it goes well beyond just tracking some calories and going on about their life. Usually it's a fundamental bedrock foundation change that we have to gut it and restart, because most people don't have the tools from their adolescence to be successful in their nutrition management when they're adults. And that's it. So stop being so hard on yourself. But at the same time, I think pointing this finger at, well, it's actually everybody else's problem, it's not me, I'm not the problem, I could never be the problem, is not going to get you anywhere either. It will just get you left behind. Because like I've said before on the podcast, no one is coming to save you. No one's going to answer these questions for you. You have to seek it out on your own. You have to do the self-discovery, the healing, all of that on your own. And if you've ever been to therapy, you know this. But if you've never been to therapy, therapy is very hard work. That's why most people don't do it. People will go to therapy, but they won't participate in it, and they won't actually change, because the change sucks. Going to therapy and actually being challenged to change and do something different is hard. Self-accountability, self-awareness, self-reflection, even gentleness and rest towards yourself is tough work when you're coming from a baseline of trauma. So I'd encourage you, at the end of the day, just don't give up. That's it. That's the magic answer of why can't I lose weight? You're on the right track. You're on the right track by asking questions. And now all you have to do is not give up and just keep going. Just don't give up. And remember, it's not about giving up on weight loss. It's about not giving up on yourself. That's it. That's the magic answer. Just don't give up on yourself. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you are interested in coaching or hiring me as a coach, you can go ahead and click the link in the bio. I'm taking new applicants to get coaching in as we approach summer. So just know it is my busiest time of year as we approach summer. So I'd love to get you in before I have a waiting list. So go ahead and click that link in the bio, and I would love to be your coach and get you on the right track. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in next week's episode.